What time is it? What time is it? It is Smackdown time. Hello everyone, my name is Marcus Stewart and welcome to Call It in the Ring. We are discussing Smackdown Live, the August 21st show of 2018. This is the fallout from SummerSlam and we are still in Brooklyn in the Barclays Center, the last show of a long weekend in New York City. But let's see how the Blue Brand kicked it off with a bang. Tonight was billed as a special edition of SmackDown. I'm not sure what that meant, other than, I guess, to maybe draw ratings. But it's kind of like when WWE used to do the season premieres, or I guess they might still do it. Every time Monday Night Football started again, the Raw that night was the season premiere of Raw. Or like, that's not how wrestling works. There's no seasons, but whatever. Anyways, I'm rambling. Let's just get to it. So, we open the show with The Miz and Maurice coming to the ring, and they're looking surprisingly sad, surprisingly dejected. They are standing there. Miz looks like he's about to cry. He doesn't speak for a long time. Maurice is holding him. And then eventually he very, very slowly, somewhat quietly, and now, he regretfully has to inform us of his retirement. And of course, what he means by that is his retirement of having to face Daniel Bryan ever again, because he beat him at SummerSlam just like he said he would, and with a punch in the face, no less, because after all this time of Bryan saying that he was going to punch Miz in the face, he punched Miz 100 times in the match, but it only took one punch from Miz to beat Bryan and get him out of his life for good. And now he's finally moving on with his life. Unfortunately for Miz, Daniel Bryan shows up very, very upset and repeatedly calls Miz a coward for what he did at SummerSlam, proving that he had to cheat in order to beat him. Miz refuses to deal with Bryan ever again, saying that they're done. Bryan gets in a pretty good line saying that Miz has proved what he's known all along, is that he's a wannabe Hollywood actor cosplaying as a professional wrestler. Maurice grabs the mic and tells Bryan, just says, why don't you just go home? And, you may as well change your last name to Brian Bella, which, if you say a Bella's name, they're gonna come, because Brie Bella storms the ring. Maurice bails, leaving Miz in there by himself, and she just goes straight for Miz instead and kind of forearms the crap out of him. Like, the first forearm just nails Miz, and she's just wailing on Miz, and then Bryan comes in and knocks Miz out of the ring. The two villains head for the hills, and Bryan and Brie Bella are celebrating, and Bryan announces that the reason he came out here was that he just finished talking to Paige, and that at Hell in a Cell, it will be a mixed tag match between the two of them and Miz and Maurice. So this was a really good segment, as always, between these two. And I think a mixed tag's I think that's a good way to kind of keep the feud going while mixing it up a bit. Curious to see how Maurice holds her own in the ring. She gave birth 4 months ago, 3-4 months ago. So, she's got about 3 weeks to get ready as this Brie, I suppose. But it should be a good match. Excited for it. Backstage, Miz runs into Paige and yells at her, saying that she's somehow an even worse general manager than Daniel Bryan. And then Paige's comeback is, well, you just got punched in the face by Brie Bella. So, Paige won, Miz 0 on that note. And she says that the match is still on for Hell in a Cell. Speaking of matches, we get our first one of the night. Jeff Hardy facing Randy Orton. Finally, this is after weeks and weeks of Orton viciously attacking Hardy, saying that he is the first of the WWE Universe's idols. He's tried ripping his ear off. He's cost him the US title. He's, tried to erase everything that Jeff is, that makes Jeff Jeff. So we're finally getting, I guess, a blow-off, so to speak. This started off relatively Relatively normal or tame for two guys that really hate each other, which has kind of been an issue with some personal feuds of like, oh, they should just be going at it, and then they kind of start like any other match. Thankfully, that did not last super long here because Orton at one point goes for the ear again. He does the same thing where he shoves his finger through Jeff Hardy's gauged earlobes, and God, like there's very few things that make me squeam or make me like squirm. I'm not a squeamish person, especially in wrestling, but they found the one thing that I'm just like, like I almost have to look away. Ugh. But thankfully Jeff manages to escape his ear catastrophe. As Orton is trying to go for the inverted DDT, Jeff counters, and then in a bit of payback, stomps on Randy's balls, drawing an intentional disqualification. And then Jeff just snaps finally and starts beating on Randy around ringside. Eventually their fight spills into the crowd and they brawl their way over to the production area. Jeff is hitting them with chairs and pretty much anything that he can find. He grabs a camcorder at one point and hits Randy in the head. And then this culminates in Jeff laying Randy out on a table and then climbing like one of those big production like cases or whatever. And then hitting a big old swanton bomb through the table, through Randy Orton, laying him out. And then Jeff, as he's laying there, is like smiling, this kind of like almost disturbing smile. So this clearly isn't over, and there's an argument to be made that this feud might warrant a Hell in a Cell match, which, having listened to Jeff in various podcasts, I know that's been one of his bucket list things, is to be in a Hell in a Cell match and to particularly jump off the top of the cell. So this might be as good a chance as he's ever gonna get to having that, because this feud has already gotten pretty personal and pretty sick. So curious to see where that goes. This takes us backstage with Renee Young, who has the bar, Sheamus and Cesaro. She's going to interview them. She doesn't get very far because as soon as they start talking, Gallows and Anderson, the club, remember them? They show up, and I don't know why they did this, but they start imitating someone, where like Carl puts on some big rimmed glasses, and then Gallows does one hell of a British accent. And they just start talking. I think they were imitating someone, but I had to rewind because I couldn't tell what Carl said that they were referencing, and I still don't. So there was some mention of Ed Sheeran? Is that how you say his last name? Ed Sheeran? I'm not cool, so I don't really know. Like, I know Ed Sheeran, Shikra is like a music artist. I don't know how you say his last name exactly, so I apologize, Mr. Sheamus. I know you're a big fan of the show. Anyways, yeah, I have no idea what the purpose of this was, other than set up a match between the two teams next week. So that happened. Something else that happened was Naomi taking on Peyton Royce, with, of course, Billie Kay by Peyton's side. Before the match, the Iconics make fun of Brooklyn, calling it a dumpster fire, and of course make fun of Naomi as well. This was a fine match. Naomi has gotten even better in the last year, and she was fine last year as well. But, you know, she's one of those talents that just kind of sneak up on you in terms of her ability, where you're like, you watch her after a while, you're like, man, she's gotten even better. And she's clearly one of the most athletic women on the roster. She had like a jumping, like split leg drop at one point that looked painful on the groin. Of course, for her, it's fine. Unfortunately, her athleticism was not enough because Billie Kay offered a distraction, allowing Peyton to send Naomi into the post, which led to her hitting a perfect plex, a fisherman's suplex with a pin, for the 1-2-3. So it's, you know, nice to see the Iconics winning something. They're an act that you can kind of have them lose a lot because they can easily bounce back with just a really jerky promo. But, you know, they have to win something now and again to kind of at least remind you that, hey, these guys or these girls are capable of winning matches and they're dangerous. So just a quick little TV match that was fine. We see the New Day backstage because they're getting ready for their no disqualification rematch against the Bludgeon Brothers for the Smackdown Tag Team titles. Big E will not be wrestling because his ribs are taped up because of his the assault with the mallets at SummerSlam, but he is eating Chinese ribs, which I've always thought were okay. Chinese ribs are decent. They're somewhat disappointing because you think they'd be a little bit better, at least to me. But I feel like I can eat one and be good for a year or so. I don't know. Maybe I've just not been having good Chinese ribs. Someone tell me where I can get some really good Chinese ribs, because the ones Big E were eating did look kind of good. It made me want to eat one. Anyways, they hype up their match pretty much, and Big E wishes them luck. Next up, we got one of the big promos of the night. Becky Lynch comes out to the ring to explain her actions from SummerSlam, where she snapped and beat the flair out of Charlotte, so to speak, after Charlotte became the SmackDown Women's Champion. And she, the Brooklyn crowd is still very much behind her. And she starts off by saying that SummerSlam wasn't supposed to be about Roman Reigns or AJ Styles or Seth Rollins or anyone else, especially Charlotte Flair. It was supposed to be about her and her moment. But Charlotte weaseled her way into the match and stole the title from her. And she's had enough of that because she knows that she's the best in WWE. And the fans are with her throughout all of this. And then so Becky switches gears and starts targeting the crowd, saying that, oh, you've been with me the last couple of days, but where were you before that? You guys never mention me when you talk about who's the best wrestler in the entire WWE. I'm never on that list. You guys cheered. You guys were happy for a title change at SummerSlam. And, so clearly it didn't bother you that much that I didn't win. And Becky here is pretty good. There were some points, especially when she started targeting the fans, that she, at least to me, she seemed like she was still like a little, like she was trying too hard a little bit. I'm not sure I totally believed it, I guess, what she was saying. I felt like she was more believable when she was mainly focused on talking about Charlotte. And, she kind of had to attack the crowd because they were totally 100% behind her here. So, I appreciate it, and it was okay. But I don't know, like it seemed like she was, and she's new at this. This is her first heel turn since NXT. That was the last time she was a heel. It was way back in NXT. It almost felt like she was doing what she felt like you're supposed to do as a villain, in terms of like, okay, I have to insult the crowd now. And it didn't come off as genuine as it could have been. But again, first time, she'll get better, hopefully. But overall, a pretty solid promo, and I'm very intrigued to see what a heel Becky Lynch looks like as the character, evolves. Charlotte Flair came out and wasted no time storming the ring for a big old fight with Becky. They're brawling all over the ring and at ringside, just beating the tar out of each other. Paige comes out. Some referees try to break it up. They can't. So Paige brings out the women's roster to pull them apart. And it's an interesting little, nice little twist. Never seen usually you're used to seeing the men get into the big pull-aparts with the roster coming out. This time you had the women do it, including Asuka, who hasn't been seen in forever. Asuka was out there, and it was just kind of weird to see Asuka just kind of an afterthought in this whole thing. Just another face trying to break up the more important women, or at least at this moment. So Asuka lives. I would like to see more of her because Asuka's awesome. But yeah, this was a nice big fight. They've got a big problem in their hands in terms of crowd support, though, because Charlotte, for one, Becky, at least to me, we'll see how Becky turns as heel, but Becky has always been a natural face or good guy to me, whereas Charlotte has always been more of a natural villain. and now they're playing the opposite roles. And the idea that having to cheer Charlotte, who, I mean, she didn't cheat to win, of course. She won totally fair. But, you know, the idea that you have the good guy who's this incredibly accomplished superstar who, you know, comes from wrestling royalty, who is perceived as, from some people, that she's only gotten there because of her name, which is ridiculous at this point because Charlotte is an incredible performer and has absolutely earned everything that she has. But, you know, the perception is that, oh, she's only there because she's a Flair. So, you know, those things make her more suited for a villain outside of just her being bigger than Becky and most women. She's a tall, you know, imposing woman. And she's the good guy in all this. And then Becky, who's always just been a natural kind of underdog character, now we have to boo her against. So yeah, both ladies and WWE have kind of have their work cut out for them in terms of getting the fans to react accordingly. So I don't know, Becky might have to pull a gun on the audience or something to get them to turn against her. So I'm interested to see how they figure that all out. Next up, we had a rematch from the SummerSlam pre-show of Rusev and Lana taking on Andrade Cien Almas and Zelina Vega. This was a uneventful match. You know, just you know, it was fine. The only highlight was at the end when Andrade went to grab a chair, and then Aiden English appeared from his portal of opera, and for once he managed to help out and not screw things up. He grabbed the chair from Almas. The distraction allowed Rusev to hit the Machka kick and get the 1-2-3. And Aiden is so elated that he finally didn't just, you know, screw the pooch on this one. Rusev and Lana seem pretty, you know, cool with this. They're like, okay, he actually helped us. So we'll see if that gets Aiden back into the good graces of Rusev Day. Shinsuke Nakamura is cutting a little selfie promo saying that, you know, he's beaten Jeff Hardy. He quotes the Statue of Liberty saying, "Bring me your sick, weak, tired." And he wants his coronation as the champion of America because now it is Knock America. That's where we live in now. Knock America. So the United States is the country of strong style? Maybe? I don't know. Fine promo. I hope that Shinsuke doesn't become kind of like a generic, like, evil foreigner, because he's, to me, is kind of beyond that. I mean, I've always believed for a while now, the foreign, you know, the evil foreign guy that hates America is somewhat played out at this point, even though it still works. You know, I'm not going to say it doesn't, but it's pretty cliche, especially when they win the United States Championship. Like, anyone that's not from America that wins the United States Championship, that is a villain. That seems to be their go-to thing for them. But Shinsuke is, he feels so much more unique than that. Just have him be a jerk and kick people in the balls. He doesn't have to go around and start burning the flag or anything like that. So, and dancing upon it. So yeah, but that seems to be where we're going. So who knows? If they do it, maybe Shinsuke can do something interesting with all that. AJ Styles has a promo at they do the cool little old school ramp promo or interview with Renee Young. She calls him out, asks him about what happened at SummerSlam. AJ says that he's not happy with how SummerSlam ended and that he broke his promise to his wife to not blow a gasket. But he does make a new promise that he knows he can keep, is that the next time Samoa Joe says anything about his family, he is going to rip Joe's heart out. As soon as he says that, Samoa Joe comes from behind, pulls him off the stage, and locks him in a coquina clutch at ringside, you know, I guess at the floor where the stage is. And there's like these kids that are like on the barricade screaming at Joe, and one of them keeps screaming like, "I love you, Samoa! I love you, Samoa!" And then there's one kid that's like, "I hate you, Samoa!" And it just sounded weird, like I don't know. I'm not used to people calling him Samoa. You just call him Joe if you're going to talk about him shorthand. So it just sounds like they're talking about the country of Samoa. Like, I love you, Samoa. He's like, okay, cool. I mean, Samoa's probably a cool place. I've never been, but I'm sure it's nice there. But except for the person that hates Samoa, the little girl was like, I hate Samoa. I hate Samoa. Although that was kind of funny. Joe grabs the mic and is like, Wendy! In his angry, scary Joe voice. And, you know, starts doing his usual awesome, just screaming into the mic, saying that, Daddy was supposed to come home tonight to tuck your family in, but unfortunately he's already gone night-night. And, he's all sweating and bug-eyed, and AJ just holding AJ's unconscious head up. And yeah, just more great work from Joe here. Really digging this feud. The odds are the next match will be inside the cell, which is cool with me. So, yeah. Good job, Joe. You go and attack other people's, husbands and make fun of their families. Good luck. Good luck. Carmella comes to see Paige and wants her rematch with Charlotte for the title. Paige makes fun of her for losing the belt. Carmella responds by saying not to title shame her. I wasn't sure what to make of that line. And then R-Truth randomly pops in and tells Carmella, he's like, you've been ducking me for weeks. Carmella, you've been ducking me. And he's like, but he wants a title shot. And, the joke he made a couple weeks ago where he says, I gotta pin Carmella to earn a title shot. Paige corrects him, saying that, just because Charlotte and Becky pinned Carmella to get title shots doesn't mean that that's how it worked for everybody. So, fortunately, R-Truth cannot get his unspecified title shot against Carmella. The crowd is sad about this. Truth tells her to, watch her back. And then Carmella leaves, and I guess apparently Truth grabs her off screen, and Paige is telling her, like, put her down, Truth. Just a funny little promo. Truth is funny, as he has been for years now. So they should just do that at some point. Like, just have Carmella versus R-Truth for a random #1 contender spot. And this brings us to our main event, which I was surprised to see this as the main event. New Day, Bludgeon Brothers, no disqualification. This is Kofi and Xavier, because as I mentioned before, Big E has bad ribs. He can't even accompany them at ringside, so the Woods and Kofi are on their own. And as soon as the bell rings, it is just a giant brawl. No tagging, of course, because it's no disqualification. So just tornado rules, and everyone just giant free-for-all. There's great chaos at ringside where, they're just drop kicking and throwing each other around the announcer's table. At one point, Harper grabbed the announcer's chair and just pelted it at Kofi and just knocked his ass out. God, this was almost too much to keep track of at times. It was a really entertaining match because it never really stopped. It was always going. At one point, Harper sent Rowan into Kofi, who was laid out at the barricade, and he was gonna pretty much Rowan was gonna charge him with a hammer to slam him through the barricade, but Xavier pulled him out of the way at the last minute, sending Rowan through the barricade in a big crash. Chairs were involved. New Day brought in a ladder. The Bludgeon Brothers bridged the ladder between two chairs that were set up in the ring, and they did their doubles razor's edge to Kofi on top of the ladder, which didn't break, which is probably more painful than if it had broken. But that only got a 2 count, somewhat surprisingly. Yeah, this is a really fun match, and I can see why it closed the show, because it was chaos. Crowd was super into it. Really, really brutal. And then in a surprising ending, the New Day wisely, Kofi grabbed one of the mallets that the brothers carry and used the hammer against God, was it Harper? I think it was Harper. Hit him with the hammer in the gut, stunning him, which allowed the New Day to set up a table, and they laid Harper on the table, and then Woods did the limit breaker from pretty much almost from the other side of the ring. It was a really far jump he had to make, but he nailed it, sending Harper through the table with the limit breaker and giving them the pin. And now the New Day are five-time tag team champions. And yeah, the Bludgeon Brothers, their first loss since becoming a team, as a tag team at least. And I did not expect that to happen here. Some might wonder, like, well, why not just do that at SummerSlam? But it would have felt, I mean, one, if you're going to do a title change, I'd rather it be on, like, in a main event of a TV show than on a pre-show for a pay-per-view. And also, it made sense because you wouldn't be able to get to this match. Actually, no, it wasn't on the pre-show. It was at the pay-per-view. I apologize. But regardless, I get the story of, like, you know, because New Day had the Bludgeon Brothers somewhat beaten at SummerSlam. And remember, the Bludgeon Brothers got themselves intentionally disqualified to keep the belt. So they set up the story that New Day has they have the combination to solving the problem of the Bludgeon Brothers. And now that it's no disqualification, they could, you know, beat them. And they did. So New Day had their number. They just needed the right stipulation where Bludgeon Brothers couldn't get out of it, and it paid off. So I think it would have been somewhat, it would have been weirder if the Bludgeon Brothers had won after barely not even being able to actually beat the New Day at SummerSlam. So, and of course, Bludgeon Brothers have their rematch, Hell in a Cell, most likely. These two teams work well together because both teams are awesome. So bring it on. Do they get a cell match? Maybe. If it's anywhere near as good as the Usos and New Day cell match from last year's show, then these two teams certainly have the potential to put on a really, really good tag team cell match. But man, that's kind of crazy that there's actually multiple shows on SmackDown alone that could conceivably take place in the cell. I mean, we know the mixed tag between Miz and Bryan won't be. That's already been confirmed. But Styles and Joe could do it. Hardy and Orton could do it. And New Day and Bludgeon Brothers could do it. So, Hell in a Cell's a cross-branded show. So those are three just from SmackDown alone that are pretty strong candidates. So, well done for SmackDown in terms of their storytelling, because that's the only reason why that would be the case. But yeah, that wraps up the show. I think that was a cool way to, nice big happy moment to end SmackDown. And much like Raw, they set up some good, interesting stories for the future. I'm excited to see how AJ versus Joe progresses, because that's been really entertaining to watch so far, as has Hardy and Orton and Becky Lynch. Let's see how she takes her heel character going forward. But thanks for listening, guys. I'll be back next Tuesday with my review of Monday Night Raw. If you want to listen to me on other platforms, I am also on iTunes at Marcus Writes About Games. You can find me on Podbean as well at the same name. And if you'd like to reach out to me or follow me on Twitter, you can find me at MarcusStewart7. That is the number 7. And if you'd like to listen to any video game podcasts, I've got Carving Gaming Rushmores, a list debate show where me and 2 other guests talk about the 4 premier examples of a specific gaming topic. I've also got Game Chat, where I just pretty much just a random discussion about anything video games. I'm planning a new episode of Carving Gaming Rushmores, hopefully this week. I know I keep saying that, but I've been super busy. Hopefully that'll be posted this week. And I'm also planning a Game Chat covering Gamescom. What's that? Just kind of my thoughts about all the news coming out of Gamescom. So look forward to those. And until next time, I'll see you next week, guys. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.